You know, we all think we know the story of video games, right? But what if I told you the history books are off? By like 20 years. Yeah. Today we're going to talk about a forgotten 4-meter tall giant that was the real pioneer of it all.
Okay, so let me ask you something straight up. What was the very first video game? What's the first thing that pops into your head? For most of us, it's probably that same simple, iconic classic. And if you said Pong, hey, you're in good company. But you'd be wrong. By about 2 decades, actually. The real story starts way, way earlier. And honestly, it's way more amazing than a little game of digital tennis. Yep, the first ever video game was a massive 4-meter tall machine that showed up all the way back in 1950. Its name, Bertie the Brain. And its story? Well, it all kicks off with the absolutely wild journey of the guy who built it. See, you just can't get the story of the machine without first getting the story of the man behind it. This is so much more than just a tech story. It's about survival, it's about resilience, and it's about pure, unfiltered genius in the face of just impossible odds. Meet Joseph Cates, and his story, it's almost hard to believe. In 1938, he escapes the Nazis in Vienna. He makes it to the UK thinking he's safe. But then the war breaks out, and boom, he's wrongly labeled an enemy spy, arrested, and shipped off to an internment camp in Canada. He was stuck there for almost 2 full years. But here's the thing. Even in a place like that, in those awful circumstances, the people inside found ways to stay sharp. They actually organized a camp-wide academic competition, just to pit the brightest minds against each other. And the result of this little competition? It's just staggering. Joseph Cates, he came in first place. And the guy who came in second, just some guy named Walter Cohen, who would later go on to win a Nobel Prize. Yeah, that's the kind of brainpower we're dealing with here. So, after he was finally recognized for what he was, a victim of the Nazis, and released, Cates didn't waste a single second. He put himself through university, got a PhD in physics, and was ready to, change the world. Okay, so how on earth does a refugee turned physics genius end up inventing the world's first video game? Well, the answer isn't what you'd think. It wasn't about fun and games. It was about solving a really practical, kind of boring problem. So Cates was on this team at the University of Toronto, and they built one of the world's very first computers. It was called the UTEC, and this thing was a monster, totally groundbreaking, but it had one big problem. Think about it. It's 1950. How do you show off what this giant room-sized electronic brain can do to the public? How do you make them get it? It was a huge marketing headache. And this is where Cates had his brilliant idea. It was so simple, it was genius. He thought, forget trying to explain all the complicated math, let's just make a game everyone already knows how to play. And what game did he pick? Tic-tac-toe. Of course. The rules are dead simple, the goal is obvious, and literally everyone knows how to play. It was the perfect way to show a computer thinking, making logical moves without having to say a single word of jargon. So, with the idea locked in, Cates got to work. He built this enormous, special machine just for one purpose, to show it off at the 1950 Canadian National Exhibition. The stage was set. The world's first video game was about to make its grand entrance. And wow, when people saw it, it was a total spectacle. Cates called it Bertie the Brain, and it was a beast. It stood over 4 meters, that's more than 13 feet high. It just loomed over everyone at the exhibition. And to really sell it, they framed it as this epic showdown, the computer brain going head-to-head with a human brain. I mean, come on, who could resist a challenge like that? And it was a smash hit. An unbelievable success. For 2 solid weeks, the lines were huge. People just waited and waited for their turn to take on the machine. They'd press a button on this cool light-up keypad, and Bertie would make its move instantly. And get this, Cates himself was usually right there, tweaking the difficulty so kids could play, experts could be challenged, everyone got a shot. So, let's recap. We've got a towering invention, it's a massive hit with the public, and it's a genuine world first. This thing should have kicked off the entire video game industry, right? So why isn't it sitting in the Smithsonian right now? And that's the big question, isn't it? If Bertie the Brain was such a huge deal, if it had crowds lining up to see the future, why have most of us never even heard of it? Why did it just disappear? Well, the answer is kind of simple and honestly a little heartbreaking. After those 2 amazing weeks at the exhibition were done, they just took Bertie apart. That's it. It was seen as a one-off gimmick, and its parts were used for other stuff. But there's a little more to it than that. It wasn't just that they saw it as a novelty. The real, deeper reason Bertie was never put back together is that even though the idea was brilliant, the technology it used was already on its way out. See, Bertie ran on these big, clunky things called vacuum tubes. Super impressive for the time, sure. But right around the corner was the invention of the transistor, way smaller, way more reliable. It made vacuum tubes obsolete almost overnight. So as amazing as Bertie was, it was basically a high-tech dinosaur the day it was switched on.
And really, that's the big takeaway from the story of Bertie the Brain. You have this incredible flash of genius from one of the smartest people around, but it just arrived a little too early. It's such a powerful reminder that being first isn't always what gets you in the history books. It's about being first at the right time. And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many other brilliant ideas are just out there, waiting for their moment to finally shine?